For my first 2 deals, I made something like $30,000.
We can talk about side hustle.
I just wanted to make money.
I think that whole thing is really keeping people back. Focus on one thing.
You have to grow your capacity.
You can have 3 different businesses, but you're still going to make $100,000 because you're still a $100,000 entrepreneur.
You don't really lose unless you don't learn.
We had 1,000 people on the list. Called my wife and I was like, hey, I just spent $16,000. She was like, what? What's up, everybody? I'm Keith.
And this is D, and this is the Defiant Life podcast where we defy the laws of mediocrity. So, Keith, I want to start off by talking about one of the things that you mentioned in the last episode of the podcast where you said you bought a gym, you bought a business, and it was actually a bad decision.
Yes, it was a bad decision at the time. Buying the gym wasn't necessarily the bad decision. It was the timing and that it pulled my focus away from what I was actually doing. So, yeah.
So I'm looking forward to this right here.
Yeah.
Real quick, this might sound a little bit off topic, but just kind of follow me when I say this.
Okay.
So I go to this chess group that was started by Ray and his wife, Monica, Chess for Charity. Shout out. Y'all can come on the show. And one of the things that he says that's really good that I take with me in everything that I do and teach my kids as well is in chess, as in life, you either have wins or you have learns. He believes that you don't really lose unless you don't learn.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you mention that right now about, the timing and not necessarily being a bad decision, but the bad timing of it, that wasn't the L that you took because I'm believing that you probably learned something from that, right?
Oh, I learned a ton of stuff from that. Yeah.
Okay.
It's funny because we had on TJ a little while back. We were talking to TJ Cheek, and he was saying that most entrepreneurs have a graveyard of bad business ideas in their backyard, right?
So good.
Yeah, and I think that's probably true. I think that most people have to go through stuff like that in order to learn, and so I think maybe I'm a little hard-headed too, so I have to go through the experience to get the lesson.
Listen, I'm the most stubborn person I know.
Yeah.
I like School of Hard Knocks. I took night classes, right?
Yeah. Mark Broussard wrote a song about me actually called The School of Hard Knocks.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
That's about you?
That. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Mark Broussard excited. All right, so tell me a little bit about this whole journey that you did with the gym, buying that gym.
Okay, so what happened? This was actually when you were working with me up in Jessup, and I had I don't know how many 4 or 5 mobile home parks at the time, and we had grown really fast, and then we were taking the next little bit of time, next season, I guess, to kind of get those parks where we want them to be before we purchase more. And then I was just working out at the gym that I actually started this gym in 2010, and had no idea what I was doing. So I just sold it for what I owed on the equipment, and went back to school actually. Also not a great decision, but anyway,
you had a lot of opportunities to learn.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, I was just working out at the gym, and the owner came to me and he's like, "Hey man, getting ready to move. Want to know if you were interested in buying the gym back?" And I was like, "Maybe. Let me take a look at it." So I looked at the numbers and everything, and I was like, "You know what? I know this business because my first real business was a fitness company. So I really learned how to do sales. I didn't learn that much about marketing, but I learned how to do sales, and I learned how to grow a fitness company. But at one point I had grown that company to 7 different gyms, and it was doing pretty well. So I felt pretty confident that I could grow it from what it was at its current state to a lot more than what it was doing.
Right. So you had the education.
Yeah.
You had the skill set.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I had the things that I needed to do it. The problem was I already had another business that I was still running. So in order for me to go and do the gym business, I had to leave the current business. And then usually this is something I think a lot of entrepreneurs do. Okay. And usually what happens is everything suffers because nothing's getting singular focus.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's kind of what happened at the gym.
You know what? I was leaving church the other day. I went to a meeting about a missions trip that me and my family are going to go on this summer. And I was talking to one of the contractors that I'm really good friends with. And he said, "Hey man, so it's good to see that you guys are coming to the trip this summer." Yeah, man, really excited. I know a little bit about everything, but I'm not as good as you are, right, at this stuff. He said, "Yeah, jack of all trades, master of none." And then we thought about it, and I was like, that's probably not a good thing,
Yeah, I think in business right now it is. Well, you sort of do have to be that, especially when you're first starting out. You kind
Yeah.
of do have to be a jack of all trades in your business.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, you don't want to be a jack of all trades in 10 different businesses, though.
That's it. That's what I'm getting to. Yeah.
You want to have you have to be able to know every aspect of your business, but you got to focus on that thing. I think this whole side hustle idea is like, we can talk about side hustles.
Yeah.
I think that whole thing is really keeping people back. I think this like trend of like having a side hustle, if the intention is not for that to become your main hustle, then the side hustle is probably keeping you away from what you really need to be doing.
You know, and I can get with you on that, because I believe that same energy that you're putting towards that side hustle, if you put it towards your main hustle or stay singly focused, you'll probably get a better and quicker end result if you just was singularly focused, right?
Yeah, and I think what happens is a lot of entrepreneurs, they grow to a certain point, and I have this theory, which is not mine. I mean, there's lots of people who talk about this theory of constraints, where you have like, you can grow, your business can grow as much as to your ability, basically, to the entrepreneur's ability, and then at a certain point, it's going to level off, and people get stuck. But then when they get stuck, instead of figuring out how to break through that hump, they're like, well, I can go do this other thing and also make that much. So let's say you're making $100,000 in your business, and you're like, man, I've been stuck in $100,000 for 5 years now, but I've got another opportunity over here, and I can make another 100,000. Now I can double my income. And what usually happens is they do that, and then this one starts coming down, and then you're at 50,000 on both, because you're still $100,000 entrepreneur.
Right.
So you haven't grown past that level, so you still don't know how to handle that situation.
Bro,
so,
hold on, you just dropped the nugget. You said you're still $100,000 entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So you have to enlarge your territory, so to speak, right?
Yeah, you can have 3 different businesses, but you're still going to make 100,000, because none of them are gonna grow the way that you think they are. That's usually what happens anyway. And I think this happens in people who want to open multiple locations. I saw this in the gym industry sometimes too. People would, especially in these little boutique gyms where it's like training, really is training. So, and I had it happen to me when I had my first fitness business. We like grew to a certain point, and then we went to another gym, and then another gym, and then the third and fourth and fifth one, they all were a little bit less successful than the first couple, because everything was spread out, where we probably could have just grown the first ones or first couple to go to a bigger level if we had learned how to do that. So.
Yeah. So it sounds like what you're saying is, if you are $100,000 entrepreneur, there's some skill sets that you don't, or maybe some education that you need to enlarge, because you don't just enlarge by just doing more stuff.
That's right.
You have to grow your capacity, and the only way you can grow your capacity is to have more knowledge, or more, or different, or an additional skill set.
That's right. Yep.
Right.
That's right. I think, you can stack skills on top of each other, and they become more valuable. So like, I think for most people, they probably should start with sales, because that's really what drives a business at the end of the day. So like for me, I started in this fitness company, and I was a personal training contractor. So like, I went into a gym. I actually called a friend of mine, and I was like, hey, somebody that I knew from high school. And I was like, hey, man, I know you got gyms. I've been working in gyms for a long time. What do y'all do for personal training? I was just kind of trying to get information. He's like, well, we've never made $1 off personal training. And I was like, interesting. Well, let me come try to make you some money. And so we went over there. I had a partner at the time, and she was really good at sales. And I just did the training. But we like grew really fast. We were able to go over there and like crush it basically the first couple of months. And they were like, hey, we got a couple other gyms if y'all want to move to those. So we did that. But at the end of the day, it was all driven on sales. And so like, I was a good trainer, but really the whole thing was driven off of the sales process that we had. So, and as we grew, that's what it became. The downside is I never really learned the other things that were important. So I was kind of stuck, even though we had all these multiple gyms, I was still stuck at the same level for like a few years or whatever. So, I never learned how to do marketing. I never learned how to like stack other skills on top of that, even like leading people. So there was a lot of that in this whole thing. So like, I learned how to do sales kind of because I was forced into it. I think most business people are, if they learn it, that can get you a long way by itself. But then what if you learn marketing? So if you learn that now, and you know how to sell, you can 5X your income probably just by learning that one skill.
Right.
But if you just know marketing, you don't know how to sell, then you're probably not going to be able to do that. You see what I'm saying? So it's like they have to build on each other.
So what did it take for you to understand that you didn't really understand that portion of the business? You know, because you probably tried to grow, try to expand, and we're probably taking L's in a lot of those categories, right?
Yeah. So for me, it was I didn't know how to build a high performing team. And so whenever we went to a new gym, it was always like, oh, it's really hard to find good people. You know, you hear that saying all the time.
All the time.
Yeah. And it's because people don't know how to do it. They don't know how to find that talent. They don't know how to develop that talent. So if I had learned that, we could have grown the gym or that whole business a lot faster to a lot bigger area. You know, we would have made a lot more money. But but it turns out all of those gyms, they suffered because I didn't have those skills.
And that goes back to something else we were talking about in a prior episode about the 3 legs of business. Promotion, fulfillment, and operations, which is something that you coined.
I think. I don't know. Maybe not. I'm pretty sure I did that.
Right. But and I think that was very wise and just, you know, just a great system that you came up with that can apply to any and every aspect of life, business, just any kind of growth. If you want to build anything, if you want to build relationally, if you want to build entrepreneurially, wow, that was tough to say.
I'm not sure that's a word, but
well, I just coined that. Then you just have to, you know, everything. I got a church background, and I used to always hear growing up, count the cost.
Yeah.
Right. But then a lot of times there's a lot of things that you don't know, and you don't know what you don't know. So I think you have to always be expanding, reading, talking to people, networking, and looking higher, and in order to find out, and because I'm a big proponent, like one of the things I really believe is you can learn from other people's mistakes.
Yeah.
And you don't have to go through down that same path, experience the same pain. Pick up a book. People put their whole life missions work in a book, 300 pages, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you know, so like I actually did read EntreLeadership at that time, and I remember that was a big thing that like got me into this whole like idea of management and figuring out, but I still didn't really know how to do it, so I didn't know where to look for that, I think at the time, and I didn't even know that I needed to. I kind of had that same mentality that most other people do, which is good people are hard to find, especially in the fitness world. Nobody likes doing sales. Nobody wants to come in and do that. Everybody they want to work out. They want to train people, whatever. But at the end of the day, it comes down to my ability to find those people, recruit them, and then train them on our system and make that work. And so over the last year, that's kind of what I've been working on, is figuring out how to build that high-performing, year and a half or so, how to build a high-performing team. And so once that became my focus of the skill that I wanted to develop, it was easy to find that information and then put it together. It took a long time and a lot of work, but that's, you know, that was the thing that I think once I knew where to look, you know, I knew what I needed to look for, then I was able to find those places.
So that word focus that you just said, let's take it back to you buying that gym, right?
Yeah. So because I knew I could grow the gym, I decided to take it on, and I was like, okay, well, we got management up here in Jessup at my mobile home parks, and we're figuring out all this stuff, but what wound up happening is everything kind of suffered because my focus was drawn in different places. You can own multiple businesses, I think, if you have the capital to pay people who are focused, or you have partners who are focused on that one thing. But I think it's really hard to be the CEO of multiple companies. And I think that's something that people don't quite understand. So like, you know, you hear most business people talk about like focus on one thing, but a lot of those people own multiple businesses. Think about like Grant Cardone's got like 50 different businesses.
Listen,
right?
Tony Robbins has 150 businesses.
But he's not the CEO of all those companies.
Right.
He's able to pay a CEO to come in and run that company. So, but a lot of small business owners, they want to follow that same path without putting in the work up front, or without having the capital to actually pay somebody to come in and do it. So you have to know. You have to you have to have the capital. I don't think there's any way around it. You got to have the capital to be able to pay somebody to come in and run that, or you have to have a business partner who's going to take charge and go. Either way, you're going to have to spot the capital most of the time. So I think whenever we treat it as a side hustle, and like the gym was kind of a side hustle to me, I was like, I know I can grow this gym. I know this is my main thing, but I can do this on the side and it'll be fine. It turned out like it was just one of the most stressful times of my life. It was awful.
So you were spread thin.
Yeah, and not only was it one of the most stressful times of our lives, the business actually grew exponentially during that time. So it was really interesting because we grew a ton. Like I was able to, and I learned a ton about marketing and all this stuff, but that didn't help from a lifestyle standpoint because I was still super stressed out all the time. I actually didn't make any money off the gym at all. I didn't take anything home from the gym.
Wow.
I put everything back in to grow it because I knew where I could take it if I did that. And if I had just focused on that, I know I could have gotten there. But it wasn't long after I started, maybe not even a full year, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I got to pick, and it's definitely not this because I know the real estate side has more potential for me in the long run.
That was better for you at the time.
Right.
So
and it was already established, and it wasn't like I was trying to rescue something. It was already there. I knew I could grow it. And then the gym was more of like, they've been struggling for 10 years, not really making much money. And I know I can get it to 10x what it is now.
Right.
And my plan really was to try to grow it and sell it because I knew I didn't want to do that long term. So
it sounds like that same energy that you put into the gym, had you just used that to grow your real estate stuff, you probably could have made more money with the real estate, the extra real estate, as opposed to the money that you would have made with the gym.
Yeah.
Right.
So I made $0 off the gym in a year.
That's easy math. Okay.
Yeah. So
all right.
So I definitely was not the right choice in that aspect. Although the gym, so I'll tell the story about that a little bit. So like whenever I first started, there was somebody there that I thought I can just let them run the gym. But then I also knew that they didn't have the right kind of experience and the right kind of training, and I didn't have the time to put that to teach them all the stuff. So it was a terrible decision. I don't know why I did it, but but what wound up happening is that person wasn't the right person, so I did all of the sales, and so but I didn't know how to do the marketing because in the past all we had 1,000 people on a list, and we cold called and we talked to people, so we already had the gym's list, so we had plenty of people to market to, which for us was just calling and selling them into a free consultation and then selling that into personal training.
Okay.
So
open market.
Yeah, it was very easy from a marketing side, although we probably could have grown a lot more had I known about marketing, but I didn't know about marketing at all. So when I got into this gym, this was a CrossFit gym. So it was more of like, wasn't the same kind of style.
Okay.
Not 1,000 members. Usually in these CrossFit gyms, you get like 100 members, and it's, it's kind of typical. People kind of peak there. So depending on where you are, but anyway, so whenever we got into that situation, I knew I could sell people if I could get them in the door, but I didn't know how to get them in the door.
Okay.
So that's how I kind of got in with Gym Launch. I don't know how they found me or how I found them, but
marketing, man. They do a good job with that stuff.
That's right. It was like a couple months after I had the gym, their stuff started showing up, I guess, on my Facebook page. I don't really remember. I just know I remember I clicked on their ad while I was driving, I think, maybe, or before I had started driving. And then like a few minutes later, I was in my car and I got a call from them. They're like, hey, this is who we are, whatever. And then they set up a consultation with me.
Yeah.
So whenever I was talking to them, I was like, man, this is what I need. I need to learn how to do the marketing side of this. So signed up with Gym Launch, called my wife, and I was like, hey, I just spent $16,000. She was like, what? But it was like probably some of the best money I've ever spent because I learned so much.
Great investment. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. So just to give you some numbers, at this gym, it had been open for 10 years at that point, almost, roughly. I started the gym, but I had no idea what I was doing. I grew it to about 40 members, paying like $100 a month.
Okay.
So not enough to even live off of.
Right.
The next owners did a good job with it. They grew it maybe to like 100 to 120 members, somewhere in that range, but it was still like $100 a month. It wasn't, so like it really still wasn't enough to support a staff and that kind of thing.
Yeah, after expenses and everything.
Yeah. Not enough to be a real business. So, but whenever we started, they were signing up like maybe 2 or 3 people every month. They'd lose a few people every month. So it kind of just stayed that way for years. Whenever we turned on our ads with Gym Launch, it took me a few days to set everything up. get it running. I used their ads. We didn't even create our own. This is going to be a great commercial for Gym Launch.
Right.
So I turned on my ads. I don't remember what day it was, but it was an afternoon. And I woke up the next day with 52 consultations booked.
Wow.
Yeah.
Overnight.
Yeah.
Literally.
I didn't know what I was selling at this point because their process was basically you like turn on your ads and then you do your stuff. So like, I learned what I was selling the day that I started selling it.
Wow.
And
talk about taking action.
Yeah. But I closed 2 sales that day.
Okay. Out of 52?
No.
Okay.
I had like I did have probably 15 consultations booked that day or something. Okay. They were 30-minute consultations. Not everybody shows up, so like it's free, so not everybody shows up to them. But anyway, I don't know how many I did that day, but I know I closed 2.
Okay.
I want to say 10 people showed up and I closed 2. By the end of it, I was at like an 80% close rate. But in the beginning, I didn't exactly know what I was selling, so I figured it out on the fly. But we signed up 100 people in 6 weeks. So
hold on, let me pause you real quick. So over the past 10 years, they had 100 people coming in consistently.
Yeah, on average.
And then in 6 weeks, you gave them 100% growth.
We grew by 100%, but not only that, they're charging $100 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever we got with Gym Launch, we were running this promotion. It was like a 6-week challenge thing.
Mm-hmm.
We were charging $500 for it. So we sold 100 people at $500, not at $100 a month. Then we would sell them on the back end into like a membership, which was also like $180 a month or something. It was a lot more than what we were charging in the beginning. So the revenue grew a lot, but during that time I also expanded the gym because we had 100 new people.
Mm-hmm.
We were double the size in the same space, same equipment. So like I had to get another, it was like a 3-unit building we were in. They already had 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So we rented the last building. We knocked out a wall, we did a bunch of construction, brought in somebody who did electrical, built an office for us, all this stuff. So all that money basically went right back into the gym. But for me, my biggest thing was I got to find somebody to do this work so I can get back to Jessup and do my main job.
Right.
So the biggest expense I had was finding and trying to put in people in place to take over all of that stuff. So I built a team of, I brought in a head trainer, had another trainer that I brought in an accountability coach, brought in a salesperson. So I had
Nutrition,
4 or 5.
Probably.
Yeah, I had a couple of part-time people and a few full-time people. So there was a lot more expenses at the gym too. And it was, the big thing was I wasn't training these people because I didn't have the time.
Yeah.
So like I set nobody up for success. I basically just left them in the dark. And the first salesperson we hired was good, but she was like, man, these are long hours. It's 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. basically.
Yeah.
In the gym industry, that's pretty standard. You have a few hours off in the middle of the day, but this person had a baby and she was like, I can't do this.
And they got to eat.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So it was really rough on those people. It is a kind of a tough position to hire for, but you got to find the right kind of people.
Right.
And I didn't even have the time to try to look for that because I was trying to get back out of the business, you know, which is not a bad thing. I think entrepreneurs should work to remove themselves from the business, but it takes a long time. It takes a lot of building, and you have to build this foundation. And I didn't do that. So the people that I brought in were not set up for success. So and not everybody was successful because of that.
And the thing is, because like you said, in order for them to be successful, and you were working on your exit strategy.
Yeah.
But in order for them to be successful, for this thing to really work out for you like you dreamed it would have, then you had to have some certain systems in place. You had to invest more time and stuff. There's one time you and I were talking about this guitar player, singer-songwriter, Ray LaMontagne. And you were saying that like the guy, he sings blues. For you guys don't know who Ray LaMontagne is, you might want to look up some of his music. Great musician if you like that kind of thing, singer-songwriter. But they say that he was not always a good singer or entertainer.
That's right.
But he locked himself in his room for 2 years.
Yeah, I think this is from the book, The Talent Code.
Yeah.
I think that's what that's from. They were saying that he locked himself in his room, in his apartment for 2 years. And just listened to blues albums and sang
and played
and trained himself how to how to sing basically.
So it seems like in order for you to be successful, this kind of goes back to what I was talking about on the last thing. He was hungry first of all, right? So he ate, but he was also obsessed.
Yeah.
Right. And he gave everything he had. So it seems like, and now he's known worldwide. He's been doing this thing for a long time.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times I've started something, was super passionate about it for a week or two, and it's like,
Yeah, that's I think that's a trait of entrepreneurs. I think a lot of people are that way. The startup is always exciting, and then it gets kind of boring over time. But you got to repeat that process until you get to the level of success that you want. So you think about the best athletes, the best football players, Jerry Rice, Tom Brady. You think about Tiger Woods. So I remember watching a documentary with Jerry Rice, and he was saying he never enjoyed playing football.
Crazy.
Because all he wanted to do was be the best. So he just worked constantly. And they were talking about Steve Young after they had won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He came back to the facility like the next day or whatever, and he was cleaning out his locker, getting some stuff out of his locker. And he looked outside, and Jerry Rice was out there running routes with the equipment manager, throwing him passes. He's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm training for next year."
They had just won the Super Bowl.
They won a Super Bowl like the day before. like, you didn't even take a day. Like just,
I've heard stories like that and seen documentaries with like Kobe Bryant and Tom Brady.
Yeah,
these guys are at the top of the game. Some of the greatest to ever play their sports, respectively, and they work out more. Kobe Bryant will work out 4 times in a day, right?
Yeah.
Tom Brady would be the first one in the gym. Like he would get up and be finished with a workout, icing his knees by the time you getting up and yawning type of thing. So I say all that to say, they counted the cost. They knew what they wanted to be, where they wanted to be, and they counted the cost, and they said, okay, well, this is what's going to take to do it. All right, let's do it. And they put everything they had into it. So I think one of the mistakes that you made, obviously, was that you didn't even have the space and time to give everything you had because you had a whole nother focus somewhere else, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Type of thing.
Yep.
So how did that thing end up wrapping up? Like, what'd you know?
So the gym grew a lot, but we didn't make any money, or I didn't make any money at least. And it got to the point where it was so much that I had to just turn the ads off. I didn't have anybody do the sales, and I couldn't stay there and do the sales. So then I had to pay for fulfillment, but I wasn't getting any new money coming in. And so basically I just told I had worked out kind of a seller finance deal with the guy, and it was like a year for me to come up with the payment that I was going to do, like a balloon payment.
Payment.
And,
okay.
Yeah, and if I didn't make the payment at the end or whatever, then he would get the gym back basically. So I just called him and I was like, hey man, it's not working out. The gym's doing great. You can have it back if you want.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah. But like, I gotta go. And I actually sent him a screenshot of the money, and it was like, he'd gone from like 8,000 or 9,000 a month to like 25 or something like that, or 30, like on the recurring side.
Yeah.
So, so anyway, all that being said though, I basically, I told the guy who was running the gym, and he was like, well, I'll come in and do that stuff and just run it and make a commission. And I was like, well, that's fine, but I gotta be gone. So if it doesn't work out, and that didn't work out either. So basically a couple of the members at the gym, I think he talked to them, came up and they're like, hey, we'll buy it. I was like, listen, you work out the deal with the other guy. I don't need to make any money. I don't care. I just want to be out of here.
Oh, wow.
And so they did that. But there was a lot of stuff that happened in that transaction too that went south.
Okay.
So like, these are friends of mine, and I learned this. This was a hard lesson for me to learn too. But basically what happened was, I think I took for granted that I had been involved with a lot of gym transactions before. So I knew the process pretty well. I had been involved in some gyms that were selling. I had been involved in some new grand openings. I had been involved in some that people were trying to sell to me. So like I kind of knew the whole process of how that transition looked. And they didn't. And so I guess I took that for granted and just thought that they would understand, how some of that stuff went. And that didn't happen. So they got kind of upset about some stuff. And so like from my mind, I was doing what was right. And in their mind, they needed me to do something else because it didn't feel like it was right to them. So I think the lesson that I learned in that was just do right by the other people, even if you feel like they're taking advantage of you. And they were not trying to take advantage of me. It was just, I don't think, at least, I think they had no reason to. They were successful people already. But I think I was just at this point where I was like running really thin, and I needed to be done with it. I needed to be back where I was supposed to be. Yeah. I had learned that lesson, but then I had to unravel everything to get back. So anyway, I was like, this is how it normally works. I gave them the logins to stuff. I was like, you guys go and look. I don't care what deal you work out. Y'all do all that stuff. But I don't think they ever even logged into it because they didn't understand how that process was supposed to work, I think.
Right.
So anyway, there was a lot of tension there, and we basically did not end on a good note. And so I learned the lesson that in the future, just make everything right for the other people as long as you can.
Yeah.
Which at the time I couldn't, but I could have like told them. It was an interesting thing. I was listening to Bigger Pockets, and there was a lady on there, and she was talking about her dad, or I think her dad. Her parents got divorced or whatever, and he was like a business person, and like he was like, well, the wife got half, but he kept the business, and so she got half the money, he kept the business, and he was like, I lost the eggs, but I kept the goose that lays the golden eggs.
There you go. Okay, so, I like that. Yeah,
and that's kind of, I remember that, thinking of that as I was going through this. I was like, I lost all of the eggs here, but I still have the business that is laying the golden eggs over here.
Yeah.
So like, it actually worked out pretty well. I think about 6 months later, I was a millionaire officially.
Right.
But at that point, I was having to figure out how I was going to feed my kids,
Yeah. No, yeah.
Because that whole thing was going south. So
I think we've all been there, man.
Yeah.
So if you had to recap, if you had to do it all over again, first of all, you probably would not buy the gym at that time.
Definitely would not buy the gym.
Right.
Not that I shouldn't buy gyms.
Right.
But at that point in time, I definitely should not have bought the gym.
And I think that's really important to say, because I think all of us come across opportunities where we can do something and we think we can or should do it just because we can. But if you really, but based off of what you just said and thinking about us as individuals and like time, capacity, energy, focus, and just all the things that encompasses it, a lot of times we don't have the capacity to do everything that we quote unquote can do.
Yeah.
Right. So I fall into that trap all the time.
You have to pick one thing. The thing is, there is so much opportunity, and I think that's something that people don't understand. They feel like if they miss this opportunity, that they're like done forever, But at the end of the day, there is so much opportunity out there. So like, you just got to pick the right vehicle and stay in that one the whole time.
That's good.
You can't jump around. You got to figure out what it is that you're going to do. Make sure it's a good market. Like don't. Alex Hormozy talks about his friend, I guess, or whatever, who was selling newspaper ads and couldn't figure out why he wasn't making much money.
Bro, it's 2022.
You can't be in newspapers right now
selling typewriters,
Yeah. But as long as that industry is growing and everything, like, you can pick pretty much any industry. It doesn't matter what it is, and then you can learn it. But let's say that you're in this, like I was in the gym business for 3 years.
Okay.
4 years, something like that. Well, 8 years. I was a trainer before that.
So and a PE teacher, right?
Yeah, well, sort of, yeah. So I was in that business for 8 years, and then I switched to something else. But I switched to the thing that I really wanted to do the whole time. So the whole time I was still studying real estate. That's what I wanted to do. But if I had stuck with that, I had 8 years of experience, and what you can learn in 8 years, it's very hard to start a new business and get to where you are 8 years into another one. So like, now I'm in real estate, and I own some mobile home parks. I sold a bunch of stuff, but now I'm buying more. So like, I know that business very well, and I've been in that one for about 6 years now. And so for me to just stop doing that and switch to something else completely would not be a good idea.
Right.
So like, you got to pick the thing that is whatever it is that you're going to do. And in 10 years, you're going to be better than 99% of people. Most businesses don't last more than 5 years, right?
Right.
So if you stick with that thing for 10 years, then you're probably going to be better than most people. There's no reason for you to say at that point, okay, I need to go back to this other thing or to this new thing or whatever. You don't need to chase that new opportunity. You need to figure out how to double down on what you're doing and grow that, because 20 years later, you're going to be even better than you were 10 years in,
And that's one thing I was thinking about when you said that about 10 years, 20 years. Some of these companies that we see that have been around for a long time, Coca-Cola or, an AC company, any of these local stores, it can be a restaurant, it can be a barbershop. And one of the things that I like to see is, let's just say, I'm just going to make something up right now, like Tim's Lawnmower Company, around since 1973,
Right.
And I love to see when people started. And it's like, man, these guys have some longevity. They must be doing something right. But they started somewhere. In 1973, they had been in business for, they just started their business. In 1974, they've been in business for 1 year, and then in 10 years, but they stuck with it and they're still around type of thing. And how many other lawnmower companies started in 1973 that was like, I think I want to go and, start a roofing company or something like that.
Probably a lot of those.
And you never see Tim's Roofing Company started in 1973. It's like Tim's Roofing Company and lawnmower service and massage, all this other stuff, just keep. And that's how that's part of the reason why you can end up with 15 dead businesses in your backyard.
That's right. That's right. But okay, another thing with that though is a lot of those people who have their same businesses for 30, 40 years, they're probably way more efficient than they were when they first started. Their profit margin is probably better. Even if they don't build a lot of skills, even if they're just the same person they were, they're probably a lot better at that specific business though. So they're probably making more money. But if those people go in and learn how to be better at sales, how to be better at marketing, how to be better at HR, and all the things that go into a business, then they are probably going to grow that business a lot bigger than they would if they had started their whatever other company.
Absolutely.
So like you gotta stick with that thing, stick with whatever vehicle you have, and then grow your skills, and that will help you grow the business.
Right. Don't despise the day of humble beginnings. Like you said, these guys started off small, and then they built not only their business. The main thing I think they built was they built who they were. They spread out a little bit within themselves. You have to constantly be working on yourself, is what I think.
Yeah, that's the thing. You have to continue to grow as a person and as a business person, but you got to stay in that same vehicle. The longer you're in that same vehicle, the better you're going to do.
I was having a conversation with Will, one of the guys that's on our think tank team or whatever we calling that, and we were outside talking, waiting for a meeting to start. And I said, "Hey man, you got a pen?" He's like, "Yeah, I got one in my car." He's like, "Excuse the mess." And I'm putting them on blast right now. My bad, Will. and I was like, "Oh, don't worry." I was like, "Don't worry. I'm not worried about that. My truck is a mess, but I got kids and everything. I don't know what your excuse is, But then we're laughing about it. But I stopped. I said, "You know what? I believe a lot of times, if you really think about it, our vehicles can represent, not most of the time, but in a lot of cases, our vehicles can kind of represent our mindset. So like my vehicle." His vehicle was kind of not organized. It was messy, probably needed an oil change, all kind of stuff that's going on. And it was a lack of maintenance that was going on with his vehicle. And I said, man, I can't tell you how many times I've been frustrated and all this stuff in business and just kind of discombobulated and just wondering what's going on. And I look at my vehicle and it's like a direct reflection of what's going on in my life.
Yeah.
Because I really believe that the way you do anything is the way you do everything.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I believe that stuff can be psychosomatic. So if I'm in a rut, I look at my truck and I'm like, you know what, let me clean my truck out. And then I immediately start being able to think better,
that's true.
and everything.
It's true.
But so that's kind of funny. But yeah, clean cars out. But
well, that any part of your life though, yeah, if you clean it up, that one thing, it does make a big difference.
It does. Sure. So let's go back through that story. Just a quick synopsis of this whole gym thing. So let's just say, what were some of the key things you learned if you had to like just give a quick synopsis of what you would have done with that gym?
The biggest thing is stay focused on one thing. That's been a recurring thing. Stay focused on one thing, whatever that is. It doesn't matter what you pick necessarily. Just stay with that.
Right.
And then I think just, if I had to do it over again, I probably would just have done whatever was right by the other people and just moved on from it instead of just trying to hold my ground because I thought I was right. So
a little bit ago, you were talking about finding that one thing and focusing on that and making sure you're in a good vehicle and things. So even with that gym that you bought, it was a great vehicle. It was a great market, but the timing was off. Had you had invested more time in your real estate, made more money, you probably could have hired somebody to run that for you. You know what I'm saying, type of thing. So timing is important, but then also, like I said earlier, counting the cost and what it's going to fully take. So with me, it's good that we're talking about this word focus today because that's always been a common, like a recurring theme in my life ever since I was young. I would go home back when we get report cards before, like in elementary school, And I'm dating myself because I don't know what they do now, partially because we homeschool our kids, but also because I'm just older. But
Yeah.
back then, you didn't get A's and B's. You got S's and N's
That's
and
right.
U's. You
Yep,
remember
I got this.
that?
Yep. That's right.
And I would get all these S's, which stood for satisfactory, except for when it came to conduct. And I wasn't a problematic child as far as like just being bad for no reason. I would just laugh all the time, and I would be getting and talking and everything. And the teachers were always right, and I would be so scared when these report cards came out. Like, D's a bright kid, but he can't stay focused, you know. And my mom would come home, read that, and she would wear me out, you know. This before there was DCF and all that stuff, defects or whatever it's called, you know. The peanut gallery over there laughing. But and that's always been my main thing. So that's always been a hole in my bucket, right? To keep me from fulfilling my full potential is focus. So even fast forward into when I got into real estate, you know, I started out wholesaling. And wholesaling is a very attractive thing to do. It's a way to get into real estate without having a whole lot of money, and not having to be licensed in anything.
Yeah.
You learn some stuff about real estate. You learn the game. You learn the legal side of it. You understand the lingo. You learn how to communicate, and then you essentially just putting a deal together and making money in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So with me, when I started my real estate journey, started out wholesaling, I didn't have a real plan. I was like, I want to make money, and I'm good at talking to people, right? So I can do this. So starting out, no SOP, no standard operating procedure, nothing. I just wanted to make money, right? So then get in there, make a couple of deals. I remember with my first 2 deals, I made something short of $30,000. So to someone that never had a lot of money growing up and was used to, you know, work with my hands, doing remodeling and things like that, working for other people. I would always get paid by the hour, or, you know, get paid by the project, which wasn't never anything that was super ridiculous.
Right.
So making $30,000, I was like, man, I'm feeling like the man when I come through. You can't tell me nothing. You know, I'm feeling like Kanye. And and so I would get complacent.
Right.
Got lazy, and I would lose focus because I wasn't working towards anything. Your goal in life can't just be to make money, right? Like, or if it is just to make money, like, how much are you trying to make? What does it take to get there? So I didn't have any kind of plans, any kind of systems. I didn't have any kind of direction. I just wanted to make money. And then once I made money, technically I fulfilled what I was trying to do,
right?
But it wasn't sustainable. So after I made this $30,000, a few months after that, struggling to pay bills and do all kind of things, having to borrow money, it was very embarrassing. And it was embarrassing because it was all self-induced. I didn't have that story to where I got done wrong by somebody or the IRS took this. It wasn't none of that stuff. It was all because I failed to prepare in the beginning so that I could stay focused. And I knew that I had a problem with staying focused, and I didn't do anything to enhance myself to try to fix that. You see what I'm saying? To try to shore that up in my life, right? So I think as entrepreneurs, it's good to dream, it's good to be ambitious, but in life, in business, in every area of our lives, if we want to defy the laws of mediocrity, we really have to prepare to be successful. Right. And then there's some things that you have to do to stay on top.
It goes back to living intentionally, like you were talking about last episode too. I think that's it's super important to have intention behind all the stuff that you're doing in life, especially in business too. Though you have to have a solid plan, and you got to execute that plan. You got to have goals. If you're not working towards, I hear people say a lot of times, you know, it's hard to hit a target that you can't see. So you got to put those goals down on paper. You got to figure out a plan to get there, and then work the plan.
You really do. You really do. And since then, I do things a lot differently. One of the first things I did was I developed a team. I got around some people like you and like my buddy Mike and a couple other people that I've seen that had some success. But and not just financial, fiscal success, but success mentally, and looking at how they lived their lives, and they had some success in the realm of disciplines and things like that. You know, because there's a lot of people out here that are making money and do things, but I don't want to emulate my life after them. Right.
Yeah.
So so since then I was like, you know what? Let me ask some of my friends, or let me open myself up to let them interject and speak to me on a real level. And that takes a big level of trust right there for people to be able to speak into your life. And one of the things that you used to do that I really loved is you would say, hey, look, man, I'm going to tell you this because I care for you, and, don't block me or nothing like that. But I'm going to say it anyway, type of thing. And for me to give you that space in my life, to speak into my life, right? And I hate that I keep quoting these scriptures because I sound like this is a religious podcast, but it's not. It's just my background, But one of the things that I really like is a wise man loves rebuke, right? So I think when you're trying to grow and develop, you have to stay humble, but you have to be able to accept constructive criticism.
Yeah,
right.
For sure. Yeah, yeah. I mean it's important. I think all people who are successful have that trait.
Yeah,
they have to be able to hear criticism, and then be able to take action on that. And I think that's important as a business leader too, somebody who's a manager. People have to feel safe in that space to be able to come and tell you, hey, what you're doing may not be right. I've asked people who are employees of mine, like, hey, how can I improve? What can I do better? And then they give me feedback that's like super important stuff that I can learn. So I think that's a really important thing. And I think that's also a trait that's really hard for people. I think that's really hard for a lot of people to be able to take that and not, be emotional about it. So
yeah, that's something I think you really have to get on the wraps as soon as possible. I think it's really easy for us to be self-centered and to be guarded from because things that happen in our lives, and that's understandable.
Yeah.
But when you think about relational intimacy, not sexually, but that the word intimacy, there has to be a level of vulnerability that needs to happen. And I think it needs to happen on a friendship level also, so you can really build and grow and walk with people to ensure some type of success, and so people can have your six and see your blind spots, things like that. So so those were some of the first things I did when I got to my wits end. I was like, man, this don't make no sense. I'm making $10,000 a deal, but then I'm ending up broke. And then so I got with you and some other people, and it was like, man, you need to write this stuff down. Like, what are you trying to do?
Yeah.
And I was like, what am I trying to do? Like, I don't even know.
Those questions are, it's funny though, because like it seems like that's something that we would learn growing up, but nobody does. It's like I have this process now through my sort of year of trying to figure out how to build a high performing team, and not just have a team of people who are just there to get a paycheck. One of the big things I've learned is that a lot of these, I started doing like goal setting with everybody on my team. So, and what I learned was like almost nobody knows how to set goals. So like I'll even give instructions like this is how you should set the goals. And even after that, everybody who's done it, I have to come back and say, okay, let's try to be more precise on this.
Right.
Let's try to figure this out a little bit better. So like, and I'm the same way. So like, I think it's just something that's not taught. It's a skill that's not taught to people. Just a simple thing like how to set goals. So like,
so interesting.
It's very difficult for people to, like I said, hit a target that they can't see. So like they may even find some success in business or whatever it is that they're doing. But if they don't have any goal, they don't know how to measure that, then it just kind of like what you're saying, it kind of just falls by the wayside, or they're like, hey, I did what I was trying to do, and then they back off because they don't have anywhere else to go. So
you got to have a way to quantify it. You got to be able to measure it so you can scale things. So that's one thing I encourage people to do now, and I do myself, is literally write things down.
Yeah.
A little bit earlier, you mentioned about 10 years and things like that, and one of the things that we've done is make a 10-year goal, right? And then make a 3-year goal and make a 1-year goal and take these steps so this stuff doesn't seem as daunting.
Right.
Yeah. So with me, knowing that I have the propensity to lose focus, or a lot of people that have a lot of different talents and a lot of different interests, it's like, well, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do that. I was like, what do I need? How do I get more focused? And there's certain disciplines that I start working out. So one of the things that I do that I'm looking forward to, hopefully maybe one day we can record it and stuff, is start doing these cold showers. Well, I'm not going to record me taking a shower.
don't
cold plunges, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know, we might get some ratings. I know nobody would see that.
It's the wrong channel.
I look like a only, but I look like a grizzly bear with my clothes off. Just like this beard, you know what I'm saying? Just
We started an OnlyFans. Is that what you're saying? I think they have business OnlyFans.
I think
right?
you and I would be the only ones
Oh, is that right?
fans.
The only,
yeah,
that's probably true. Probably true.
But anyway, panda. But I started taking these cold showers. Anyway, all that to say, I have these routines that I do, and that I tell myself that I'm gonna do just so I can build some mental discipline.
Yeah.
Right. And then I tell other people about it. So they ask me about it. So it's not something I do for a week and then it's like a fad or it's cool. But I want to find myself in a year's time seeing that I've done it for for the entire year, because I don't want to have the same resolutions.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in the same place and be in the same predicament year after year.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about focus on this episode. So like I remember going through that process with you, building your 10-year goals, and then how that translate down to like 1 year and 3 months and whatever. So like, what was that process like for you? I remember you kind of had like an epiphany as we were going through that. And you're like, man, this like puts everything into perspective.
So initially we started with the 10-year goal, right? And it's like, okay, what do you want your life to look like in 10 years? So I'm sitting here like, I want to be making this amount of money. I want to have these habits. I want to be this type of person. I want to be in this circle of influence, influencing these people. So then we backed it down to 3 years.
Yeah.
Right. And then 1 year.
1 year and 3 months. Yeah.
And 3 months. So then once I got down to the 3 months, what really happened to me, I was like, okay, if I can get to this point in 3 months, it made it seem like my 10-year goal was very small. Like my 10-year goal could have been obtained in 2 years.
Probably, yeah.
Or 5, well, let's say 5 years.
Right.
So it made me really, like I've been talking about counting the cost. I was like, okay, if I need to be here in 3 months, it's going to take me this, and this to do that.
Yeah.
There's no reason why I can't do that in 5 years. So I saw what it really took to get to where I was getting to. So I had no idea what it would take really, right?
Yeah.
Until I started unpacking that.
You see what your potential is though.
Yeah.
And I think for everybody, for most people, it's a lot higher than you think.
A lot higher.
Yeah. I think there's so much more opportunity than people think.
But with that, it takes consistency. It's not like do this for 3 years and then in 10 years you're going to get this.
Yeah.
So I think, once again, those disciplines, that consistency, that accountability, writing that stuff down, write a vision, make it plain, type of thing. So it just really opened my eyes.
But I think also writing down a 10-year goal. So we do this for our businesses and stuff. So like writing down a 10-year goal for your business keeps you focused. So like most businesses don't even create a vision statement or anything like that. So like, I think if you can sit down and say, okay, what do I want to, if you're starting a new business, or maybe you've been in business for a long time, but you might say, okay, what do I want this to look like in 10 years? And if you can do that, I think it helps you stay focused a lot better, because okay, this is the vision. This is where we're going. And so like, I got to stay on track in order to get there. You can't chase every squirrel that comes by. You got to focus on the main goal. If you can stay focused on that main goal, then I think you can get a lot farther. So.
Absolutely. And the biggest thing that it did for me, once we got done with the 3-month goal, I was so motivated for my entire 10-year goal.
Yeah.
And I heard somebody say this the other day. It was so good. So now, I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I know you probably do. You get up at 4 o'clock also. Yeah. Sometimes get up earlier than that. Yeah. And I heard this guy. I wish I would have thought of this. But someone was asking this other guy that gets up that early. He said, "Why do you get up so early?" He said, "If you knew," how did he say it? He said, if you knew what you had, if you knew what I was waking up to, what I was working towards, then you would get up early too. I kind of butchered it, but pretty much, let me say it like this. Let me throw an illustration in there. If somebody came to me and said, "Hey, D, I have $500 million for you tomorrow. You can come get it anytime you want."
Yeah. 12:01.
Yeah. I would get up. Yeah, I would get up the day before and be there so if you knew what I was working towards, then you would get up early too.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
So I'm like, I'm getting up early so I can get a jump start on my life, get this thing started. And so I do my most productive work in the wee hours of the morning.
Yeah.
And I'm excited and I'm motivated because I know what I'm working towards. I have an expected end because I've written it down. I've counted the costs. I see that it's obtainable.
Yep.
And I'm even more focused and motivated to do it. And I'm telling other people, so I got accountability. So it all works together.
Yeah.
Right. So So that's why I get up early. That's why I take cold showers.
There you go.
So.
Yeah, I think having that focus is so important, man. If you can just
Absolutely.
stay focused on whatever your main goal is,
Mm-hmm.
and writing that down. And so like we write our goals down every day, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like especially our short-term goals, and
Right.
then we write down our long-term goals once a month, and then we come back, and every year we're gonna come back and like, okay, we're gonna look at that 10-year goal. Does that still look right? Maybe we're already halfway there,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
So let's figure out what to do now, and then you can see, man, I can get a lot farther if I just live my life intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
I can get a lot farther than I thought I was.
Yeah.
You know? And it's not just business; that's every aspect. So we look at, you know, every aspect of our lives that was the same way, right? So we have a 10-year vision for what we want relationships to look like, and what we want our health to look like, and all that kind of stuff.
Every aspect.
And that stuff, you know, it just keeps you focused on what the main goal is. So
it really does. So if I could speak to the people real quick, I know some of you watching and listening are like, man, you know, I want more for my life. I want to be more successful. I want to be in a better place. I have dreams. I know I have potential. Like he said earlier, find that one thing that you're good at. You might already be in that thing that you're good at, right? Mm-hmm. Or there might be a couple things that you're juggling. Is it a good vehicle, first of all?
Yeah.
Is it a good market? Is it something that's going to have lasting power in the industry? Is it something that's just, I remember when we were supposed to have some kind of eclipse or something that was supposed to be happening some years ago. And I knew this one lady that was smart enough to go and buy these shades or sunglasses that helps you look at it. And
I remember that. Yeah.
You remember that?
Everybody was behind those things.
Yeah, and I was like, dang, that was so smart.
Yeah.
But you can't make a business out of that,
and
right?
They're like $1, and people are selling for like $100.
Oh my gosh, yeah, brilliant.
Yeah,
that's a hustle. I get that.
Yeah,
okay, you
right.
know, but that's not. But you might be a hairstylist. You might be a babysitter. You might have a daycare. Whatever the case may be. Make sure you have a good vehicle first, right? And then after that, write down your plan for that. Write down a 10-year plan. Write down and work your way back and watch the matriculation of it. And get some people around you that can help you, that you can encourage, and that can encourage you as well. And I know that it can happen for you. You know, I want to look back in 2 years and hear and see a lot of testimonies like, hey man, took y'all's advice and all this stuff like that and everything. So
definitely, I think people can go a lot farther than anything. I think that's a big problem with sort of education and the culture that we have is just like people are, and I'm not saying that everybody wants like a big business or whatever. Right. It's okay. I'm not talking about that. I think you asked, we were talking before the show, and I think you said like, what does success mean to you? Yeah. And I think success is just reaching whatever your goals are. So like, it doesn't necessarily have to be to make $1 million a day or whatever it is. You know, it could be like, you know, to live out in the country and be able to kill your own food and make, you know, build your own cabin, whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. But you still got to have a plan. You still got to have, you know, those action steps that you can take to get there. So
right. Yeah. Cool, man. Well, that was great. Yeah. I'm looking forward because there's so much I want to say, and but there's so many other sub conversations that can come out of these things. But I really enjoyed that. You got anything else to say? Leave with the kids.
Yeah, I think we're good for today. We'll keep going next time. So.
All right, man. You guys take care. Thanks for tuning in. This has been the Defiant Life Podcast.